Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast, we're going to be talking about losing faith in Trump. Well, that's what Candace Owens says, connecting him to Charlie Kirk, as crazy as that sounds. The power and problems associated with digital ID, because that's coming your way as well. And then what's going on in New York City with Mamdani. The final debate was up last night. Do we have a chance of getting this guy out of our political sphere? Or is he destined to be mayor? We've got these stories and a whole lot more. So get ready as you hit the share button, because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. And it is a nice day here in Florida. We're enjoying the beautiful weather after having weeks and weeks of rain and misery. And I want to start off by saying it never ends. For those of you who have been with me every show along the way, you know that going back in June, we were highly concerned on our CBD side of our business that there was going to be a massive push by Mitch McConnell and some other radical Republicans who are lining with the pot industry, that they would absolutely kill the hemp industry and CBD would be done. So we were in a bit of a panic because it looked like it was going to happen, and last second heroics by a few different members of Congress created a situation where that was pushed off for at least a year. They said you'll be good for a year. Well, Mitch McConnell, the guy who has no right still being in the halls of Congress anywhere, a radical rhino his entire career, he just can't let it go. So now, with this government shutdown and the negotiations for a continuing CR, Mitch McConnell and some of his paid-for friends are now trying to, once again, ban hemp, which would destroy the entire industry. And this one would be kind of concerning because it would be stuck in, and it may happen in the next week or two. And if it happens, it's like we're all going to get caught with our pants down. There are tens of millions of people in the United States of America who depend on CBD. Now, I'm not allowed to make any claims, so I won't, and I never do. But I know that there are articles out there and posts out there where people will say that they've used CBD and that it has helped them shrink their tumors for cancer. Others will tell you that they've gotten their life back in terms of aches and pains being gone. I know I can speak for myself. Before having my CBD, I couldn't sleep. Now I get to sleep. My stepfather, who had gone through 3 cancers, jaw, lung, colon, in a matter of 2 years, reached out to me and said, all right, I'm willing to give it a try. I can't sleep. I give it to him. He says, my God, I've never had sleep like this in my entire life. He says that sleep that he got through DML CBD not only helped him get his life back, but helped him conquer what it is that he was suffering from. I can go on. Skin issues. My wife, eczema, used to literally cut the skin off her elbows with a knife. It was horrifying. She'd take out the steak knife and just start scrubbing. That's all gone. I have seen so many lives changed, tens of thousands from our customers alone. And now Mitch McConnell, because he's in bed with the scumbags who want to poison people and give them toxins, he's going to try to make it so this way it's over. Now, once every quarter, we do a buy one, get one free. It's my way of giving back. This business has been very good to me in more than one way. And so I always try to give back. And so we do BOGOs every quarter. And nobody ever buys between the BOGOs. And you buy one, get one free. So you're getting a Ferrari for a Kia price. That's always what I've said. You're getting a Ferrari quality product for a Kia price. So people come in and taking advantage. And I do it. And then at some point I say, all right, that's long enough. I can see, it's long enough. People have bought and, you start to see the volume go down. And I said, all right, pull it. And I said, pull it the other day. And then I wound up getting some emails from people saying, Dennis, can you do it for a couple more days, please? I get paid. I get my check, whatever. Okay, fine. And now yesterday, we wound up getting this notification from a group that's trying to protect hemp that says, hey, anything you can do to bring an awareness, because this is what Mitch McConnell is doing. So I ask you, please, if you are in the world of CBD, whether you're using mine or somebody else's and it really helps you, they want to strip it from you. And I ask you, please reach out to Mitch McConnell's office, whether you live in Kentucky or not, and just give him all living hell in a letter that says, who the hell are you? And then also, if you are an existing customer, or if you've been thinking about being an existing customer, or if you're using somebody else's brand and you're like, yeah, it's okay, you want to come to the Ferrari, dmlcbd.com/BOGO, BOGO. I'm going to keep that buy one, get one free up until we wound up knowing that CR is not signed with hemp in it. And if it is, if it all comes to an end, well, at least you would have been able to get the products and you could stock up. My advice to you, because we don't run another BOGO until January, at the end of January, because we never get the inventory in time for Christmas area. So the end of January would be the next time. Get in there and get what you need in case this happens. I told you in June that I felt as if this was the direction to which things were going. Listen, the way that the government works, even though we have Trump in place, when they want something to end because they're being bought and paid for, it ends. So this is not going to last forever, unfortunately. And a lot of us, including myself, are going to have some severe problems when it comes that this won't be around anymore. So, I'll have plenty of stock. I just want to make sure that you do. So dmlcbd.com/BOGO. Better sleep, no aches and pains, get rid of the anxiety, skin issues improved, boost the immune system. These are some of the claims that people say that they've experienced. All right, so now after that semi-commercial, semi-warning, I almost can't believe we're still in a shutdown. The Democrat Party has become so dumb that they have no idea when it is that they're burying themselves. They are literally burying themselves. And I guess to a certain degree, that's great because it will help us dramatically and significantly during the midterms. And it will help Trump keep the Make America Great Again agenda alive. But I mean, you got to think about all the people who are being negatively impacted because the Democrats just hate Trump. Now, I want to remind everybody that the Democrats' biggest, hugest thing is trying to get it so this way there are subsidies for Obamacare, which absolutely sucks. Should have never been put into law to begin with. John Roberts, SCOTUS. It's a scam. It's a total scam. But in addition to that, the Democrats want illegal aliens to get their health care. They want to get your money into the pockets of illegal aliens. Now, Trump is doing a pretty damn good job at trying to collect the illegal aliens and getting rid of them. We just said it on the last program, and it was announced earlier, I think it was over the weekend, that the Trump administration has deported or will have deported 600,000 people by his first year comes up, and that with self-deportations, they're estimating it's about 2 million people gone. The issue is, honestly, I think the number of illegal aliens we have in this country is between 30 million and 50 million. It's a huge number. So we're really going to have to take even more heavy steps to get rid of these people, and Trump vows that that's what he's going to do. I have no reason not to believe him. I will always be the champion for mandatory E-Verify, which Trump will not put in because he says it makes it too hard for employers to find employees because they have to sift through so many illegals. He's sort of selling the program for me in of itself, but the president does what the president does, and we're going to support him as long as he's in office. But I go back to the Democrats. Think about what it is and who it is that they're dying on the Hill for. Now, John Fetterman has had his share of problems. If you remember, he had his whole emotional breakdown, depression, spent time in the hospital. I think it is atrocious that he shows up in the Senate with a hoodie sweatshirt on. It's like, get some class. And I'm not saying you have to wear a suit and tie every day. I know I wouldn't. But, it wouldn't hurt you to have a collared shirt on and some trousers and maybe even a sports jacket. You are a U.S. Senator, after all. But sweatpants and sweatshirts, this is what the Democrats do, right? But even with that said, John Fetterman has been reasonable. He has been a reasonable Democrat on many levels recently. And now the Democrat Party is calling for his head, so to say. They threaten that they're going to primary against him because he wants to open the government. Last night, he was on Fox News. We have video of the common sense of one John Fetterman. Play it, Ryan.
Take a few positions that don't toe the line. They're talking about when your cycle comes up, they want to primary you. What is your response to them?
I really, I'm not afraid of telling the truth. As I've said, I'll be the Democrat that refuses to lie to the base and pretend that this is right. I'm proud to stand with Israel. I'm proud to say that we need to secure our border. I think it's entirely appropriate to bomb the Iranian nuclear facilities. And now I refuse to call my fellow citizens as they're fascists or Nazis or those things. I will agree also that we must keep our government open. And if somebody wants to primary me or the party wants to vote me out, it's like I'm going to go down being honest and telling you that this is wrong to do these kinds of things, and I refuse to do that. I think we need to be a big tent party. That doesn't sound like if.
Just a little side note, if you're on Facebook, please hit the share button. It's located on the bottom right. So this way we could get more people in here because Facebook is back. They're totally back to their old tricks again. But you listen to Fetterman, and he makes common sense there, does he not? He makes common sense. Now, he may not agree with us when it comes to, the abortion topic or the guns topic, even though he makes sense when I hear him speak about guns. But look, he doesn't think you should have an open border. He doesn't believe that you should be closing your government over nonsense. He doesn't believe veterans shouldn't be able to get the services and the money that they need. I just did every morning, if you haven't noticed, I do, it's my new equivalent of the walk and talk, by the way, here on Facebook. What I do is I sit up on my balcony and I give basically, Ryan calls it DML shorts. And we do these short videos, and basically it's just whatever kind of thought comes to my head for that morning. I really enjoy doing them. I do them right after my morning prayers. And this morning I just launched one before I came down here to do the podcast with you. I talked about the SNAP program, and it's amazing. There are videos right now going around the internet where primarily blacks in America are threatening violence and threatening theft on mass scale if they don't get their SNAP money. Now, what am I talking about? The SNAP program, or EBT card, or to some of you who are much older, food stamps, that's the new word for food stamps. Let me give you some numbers which are just eye-popping. So without counting the illegal aliens in this country, we have between 330 and 350 million Americans. Of that number, approximately 42 million people get food assistance, food stamps. Of that 42 million, over 10 million are African American. So here we are once again, a negative stat, another negative stat showing how it is that the African American community just cannot get its stuff together. You've got 25%, 1/4 of the people who are on SNAP coming from a demographic that makes up only 13% of our total population in the United States. It's the same thing. It's no doubt there's problems, because when you look at the crime rates in the United States, the FBI statistics for homicides, violent crimes, disproportionately to the black community. When you look at the missing fathers in the home, disproportionately to the black community. When you look at the lowest income earners, disproportionately to the black community. And now you look at SNAP card. So what's going to happen with the shutdown is that by November 1, if the government does not reopen, those 42 million people will start to suffer a hardship because the SNAP program will start to be shut down. And so these people are making TikTok videos instead of going out and getting a job and saying that they are going to start hurting people if they don't get their SNAP card, or they're going to start stealing and looting from stores where there's food. And it amazes me, because there's one other disproportionate statistic. When you look at the election statistics, blacks overwhelmingly, like grossly overwhelmingly, up to nearly 90% vote Democrat. And that's why they say insanity, basically the definition of it, is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. You want to eat? Go get a job. And of course, that's me directing my thoughts towards the able-bodied who are just lazy, sitting home, smoking pot, sitting on the sofa, drinking their 45-ounce, popping out babies, not knowing who their fathers are, and collecting on welfare. Or the guys who are there bopping around with different ladies, impregnating, and then just alienating the kid. Yeah, you're not going to sell me on the fact that you got 11 million, or for the sake, 42 million people who are on SNAP, who are all disabled and incapable of working. And I want to be very clear. There are a lot of white people who are on the 42 million roll. And I can guarantee you there's as many dirtbags as there are in the pile of white than there is in the pile of black. The thing is that it's disproportionately numbered. So you're going to go out, you're going to create violence, you're going to go out, you're going to create havoc because of your vote. You voted for this. You voted for the Democrat time and time again. And you know why you voted for the Democrat? Because you wanted to keep your SNAP card. Because the Democrats will always and forever keep you down. The Democrats' whole play on society is to keep you down, to tell you that you are being, the victim. You are the victim of bigotry. You are the victim of economic inequality and inequity. And it's total BS. It's the biggest lie in the world. Who disproportionately has abortions? The black community. Who fights for that to stop? The Republican Party. Who wanted the Civil War to continue? The Democrats. Who wanted it to stop? The Republicans. Somehow, over the course of time, through the mainstream media and their constant lying to people, they have sold an entire freaking half of this country on the idea that the Republican Party is consisting of KKK, racists, and now Nazi figures. And these people are buying into it. And they're going to blame Trump. Now, meanwhile, the biggest thing right now in the news, and the biggest, if you go to Twitter and you see what it is that is trending, it's not the snap card. It's not the government shutdown. It's the friggin' ballroom that Trump is building in the White House. The friggin' Democrats are going bat crap crazy over Trump beautifying the White House. Now, here's the craziest part of that whole thing. It's not like Trump is the first guy to take a wrecking ball, a hammer, and a nail to the White House. For the past 100 years, the White House has always had a president come in and do a little this and do a little that. 1942, FDR created the East Wing of the White House, created a pool for himself. The East Wing, it is completely on the side of the White House. It's not the main building. You've got the main building, and then there's an East Wing and a West Wing that just both tail off. Imagine an airplane, right? The picture that you have in your head, the logo that we use for the 47 Report, which, by the way, that's our free newsletter. If you haven't signed up yet, go to 47report.com every single day. Breaking records with our open rates on this thing. But 47 Report, what you see there, the White House, imagine that's the core of the plane where everybody sits. Then follow the wings out. That's the East and West Wing. Then follow the very end of that wing where the little lights are flashing. That's what Trump's working on. The end of the wing. He's not destroying the facade or the history of the White House itself. He's taking a room, he's taking an area where the First Lady and her staff is put, and he's changing it into a $200 million ballroom that is not paid for by the government. It's not drafting money away from some program. It's being built on donations. And it's right in line with other presidents. Barack Obama put a basketball court in. I mean, there have been so many different alterations to the White House, the majority of them all being from Democrats. But this one right here is the one where everybody's got a problem with. Hillary Clinton's one of the loudest ones in the room about this. She has her comments turned off on X. You can't comment on her page. But she'll go out and she'll blast. She blasts Trump on this. He doesn't have the right to do that. You know, that's a sanctuary. That's not his house. That's where he's staying. He's a temporary resident. Hillary Clinton, the same person who took $30,000 worth of furniture in China when her husband's term was over, had to be told you must return it. That's theft. She's going to say that Trump is disrespecting the White House. Disrespecting the White House? Does she forget what Bill Clinton did in the White House? Taking a young, vulnerable intern into the Oval Office and taking cigars and sticking them in places that cigars don't go, into a young girl, and then lying to the nation about it? That's what the Clintons did to the White House. Trump wants to put in a beautiful ballroom. Obama ran pallets of cash to Iran, funding terrorists so this way they could build nukes. Obama ran guns to the cartel in Mexico, some of which killed people, including U.S. citizen Brian Terry. Trump wants to eviscerate the cartels and has bombed Iran. You want to talk about using the White House disrespectfully? So you look at it as a whole global thing. You got a shutdown. You got people losing their snap cards. And the biggest thing that you can talk about right now is that Trump wants to put in a ballroom. This is why the Democrat Party is drowning. But regardless of their drowning, they still have got a presence. And the presence is strong, my friends. The biggest state in this country, by far the biggest state, California, has got a radical Democrat who is still in office after he has destroyed everything he's touched and now will run for president. San Francisco, complete disaster. California, up and down. I mean, you have got to be growing money on trees in order to be able to live there safely. So it's not like we're completely free of the Democrats, even though they're so dumb, which lets you believe that, just like I told you with the snap, we've got a large populace that is just absolutely asinine. They can't find their ass with both hands, these people. They keep voting for the destruction that they're crybabying about, and when it happens, they want to blame Trump. That's what you call denial. That's what you call insanity. Blame Trump. So our biggest state is a Democrat stronghold, which I don't see changing anytime soon. And then you go over now and you look at the other coast. Our biggest city is, no joke, less than 2 weeks away from putting into place a Muslim radical socialist with absolutely no history of success and only history of very questionable statements. Now, I can tell you, as a guy who lived in New York for 50 years, I have always been the victim of Democrat governors. And I can tell you that we had to live through Cuomo's. Not one Cuomo, two. We had Mario Cuomo, and then we had Andrew Cuomo. And I actually left that state for Florida largely because Andrew Cuomo and his handling of COVID started to become so barbaric. I looked at my wife and said, our daughter's wearing a double mask. How long do I need to stay here for? And she finally said, okay. Mary's got a huge family. We just did the list for the wedding. I mean, she's got, I think her family alone is somewhere between 40 to 50 people. We just got notice of my father-in-law is going to turn 90. So we're doing a family trip this summer, and they're planning it already. 32 people. That's just the immediate family of the kids and the grandkids. 32. She left that all behind because the Democrats are so bad. With that said, let me lay something out for you that cannot be denied. Curtis Sliwa has tried to run for the for the mayor position in New York more than once, and he always loses. Now, there's two reasons why he loses. Number one, he may be a very good man. He may have done a lot for society in trying to protect the New Yorkers that appreciate him when it comes to trying to stop crime. But he's not a good candidate. He's not a good sell. He's not a good look. People just don't want to vote for him. So that alone, okay, if he was an electable guy, he would have already been the mayor. But he's just not. He wants to keep coming back time and time and time again. And I appreciate that. I appreciate his desire to do what he believes is right for the city of New York, the city that he loves, the only city he knows. I get it. I'm not criticizing him for that. In fact, if anything, I give him kudos. He's got no quit in him. But that's where the problem is. Because statistically, he has no chance of winning. If Trump who is very electable, were running. He can't win. You can no longer win in New York City. The statistics are against you hugely. That city is just all blue. You don't have enough registered Republicans to win the mayorship. And so Curtis Sliwa is asking for God's hand, and God doesn't get involved in elections. So then you got Cuomo, who, although a despicable human being with regards to what he did with COVID, I am sort of kind of praying for his victory. We would need even remote chance of winning to get Sliwa to drop out. So this way, those Republicans who can't get themselves to say, okay, I'll vote for Cuomo, they have no choice at the last minute to say, I'll vote for Cuomo because I don't want the Muslim socialist. Sliwa doesn't drop out, we don't stand a chance. We're going to lose this city to a Muslim socialist. And it's going to be heavily impactful. You may not think it's going to hit you because you live in Florida or you live in Louisiana or you live in Texas or wherever it may be. You are mistaken. It's going to spread like a contagion. And the Muslim world is going to feel so empowered. Last night was the last debate between these gentlemen. I think it was the last debate between now and the time of Election Day. And I watched some of it, and I will say Andrew Cuomo did a very good job. He was a good debater. I don't know if it will be enough because at the end of the day, the demographic from all the legal immigration that we've had in this country for the last 30 years has created New York into the Middle East. I just don't even know if we have the numbers there anymore. Let's play this video, Ryan, of what took place last night at that debate.
I understand my friend doesn't really understand government. The governor doesn't build housing in New York City.
Not if it's you.
No, legally, there are jurisdictions. The governor doesn't pick up trash. He doesn't run the fire department. That's what the mayor does. The mayor builds housing. The state allocates funding for localities. And I allocated more funding for housing than any governor in the history of the state of New York. All right? I did things. You have never had a job. You've never accomplished anything. There's no reason to believe you have any merit or qualification for 8.5 million lives. You don't know how to run a government. You don't know how to handle an emergency. And you've literally never proposed a bill on anything that you're now talking about in your campaign. You had the worst attendance record in the assembly. And you gave yourselves the highest raise in the United States of America. You went from $110,000 to $140,000, and then you never showed up for work, and you missed 80% of the votes. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Funny, I'm just reading some of the comments here on Facebook. I don't want to get too far deep into this. Maybe another show, definitely. But there's a couple of comments here on what I said about how God doesn't get involved in elections. I got a Randy saying, God does get involved in elections. That's why Trump's in there right now. You're wrong, DML. Oh, really? So then explain to me, what was God doing with Obama? What was God doing with Barack Obama? What was God doing with Bill de Blasio? What was God doing with Mayor Adams? What's God doing right now with Madami? Explain that to me. No. What God does is he gives you the strength and the power to have elections. So this way you can be alive and free and use your faith to do the right thing. God does not pull the lever. And if he does, then when you get up to the pearly gates, do me a favor. Ask God why it is that we had to have Joe Biden for 4 years. Ask God why it is that we had to have Barack Obama for 8 years. Okay? God allows us all the rope. We're the ones who hang ourselves. Don't forget that. Don't blame elections on God. Right? God make it so this way Trump doesn't get shot in the side of the head. That's a different thing. That's not getting involved in an election. That's keeping somebody alive. So this way the prophecy of what it is that he's supposed to do can surface. But do not water down God by making it sound as if he gets involved in elections. Your story won't stand. Not at all. Now, going past God for a moment, because I'd love to ask him why it is that he's allowing this to happen. It's not God who's creating digital IDs. It's the ugly powers. It's the devils who are creating digital IDs. We're going to talk right now about digital IDs. One of the things that my son Denny says I do really well is he says I could kind of see the future of where things are going quite often. And it's not hard to do. You have to look at who's in power. You got to look at who's trying to resist the people in power. And you got to look at the moves being made. Digital IDs is the next movement made by the globalists and the Democrats who want to control every part of your life. If you have a digital ID, you don't have a life. It's really what it is. Digital IDs, just on its surface level, is a ID just like it sounds. It's something that's over the internet, if you will. It's up in the cloud. Your entire life, your banking, your utility use, your purchases, your travel, everything, every single thing is monitored and captured. It is there for the government. It is there for other governments. It's there for hackers. Now, Ryan, you included the UK video in the interview? Okay. I'm going to play right now for you an interview I did. Just did it yesterday. We taped it for today's show because the guest couldn't come on today, and I wanted to play this. There's a guy named Bruce de Torres. He leads a group for small businesses here in the United States. He has been doing a lot of study on the digital ID. I have been doing my own research on digital ID because in learning more about AI, it is impossible not to learn more about digital IDs. That's where this is going. And I want to go back to something that we've discussed on this show before, but not enough. Globalization and those people who want to have a global society, one world society, one world government, in order to be able to do that, you have to create a one world problem. COVID was a prime example, right? COVID is manufactured in a lab. It spreads out around the world. Starts off really vicious when it had its most power, going after older people and people with beat up immune systems and scaring the bejesus out of everybody. And now all of a sudden the entire world is shut down. Okay, so how do we get the entire world up? Well, we put in this friggin' horrible thing called the jab. But eventually what happened is that too many people, myself being one of them, did not coalesce. We did not believe that we needed the jab. We did not believe that COVID was the danger that they put it out to be. So that fell. That broke for the globalists. They've tried to do it with climate change. If we don't change things, if we don't all come together under one rule, we're going to burn up our world and we're all going to melt. You remember The Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore? Right now, if there was any substance to what it is that he said going back, 25 plus years ago, we'd all be melted and dead. So clearly it's a scam. They tried to do it with population control. That didn't work, right? Now what they're going to try to do, they're going to do it with digital ID. It's not so much we have to solve a common problem. It's we've got to come up with one thing that makes it so much easier for everybody. That's how they're selling it. See, when you tell somebody that they can't do something, instantaneously, their antennas go up, right? You must take this shot. Whoa, I must take this shot? Why must I take this shot? You question. But if you say, hey, look, this shot, if you take it, you're going to have so many better things happen in your life, and you're going to be like everybody else who's really winning out there. Oh, well, I want one too. Right? It's the way it's sold. So they're starting to figure out that it's the sell that isn't working. It's the sell, right? If you tell me you need to turn off your air conditioning because you are creating a problem for the ozone layer, I'm like, you know what? Stick it up your ass. Mary, put the AC down to 65, honey. Let's drive the Democrats crazy. Whereas if they would have sold it as, if you can put your AC at 73, you will live longer. Oh, really? Science says you'll live longer. Absolutely proven. Here's a study, paid for, of course, by the globalists. Oh, all right, man, keep it at 73. It's not that bad in here. It's the sell. So now with the digital ID, they want to get you. They want to capture you. And the way they're going to do it, slowly but surely, is tell you about all the great benefits. And this is true. I just went to lunch 2 days ago with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about this digital ID. I said, yeah, my show, I'm going to do a show. In fact, it wasn't 2 days ago. It was yesterday. And I had done the interview with the guy that you're about to watch for 20 minutes. And I was late to lunch. He said, what's going on? I said, I just did an interview. I said, we were talking about digital IDs. And my buddy said, I fell for the trap. I said, you did? And he said, yep, I fell for the trap. I was at the airport. He said, and there were 3 lines. You got to go through all this TSA crap. And they said, the way you can beat the line is you get yourself a digital ID. He says, and I went because I didn't want to wait on the line. And whatever. He goes, I got the digital ID. He goes, now they got everything on me. Dumb, 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 dumb. See, they take advantage of our vulnerabilities. They take advantage of our Americanisms. How many times have I said to you, China, the Muslim Brotherhood, they all take advantage of the fact that we get all pissy when we're waiting 10 minutes too long for our lattes. Same thing. You got to wait an extra 15 minutes online to make sure that you're on a safe flight. You're going to get all out of crazy, so you don't want to wait on the line. What? So you go sit in a chair and wait at the gate instead? Now they got your digital information. The digital ID movement will have a hard time getting past Trump. But make no mistake, eventually, unless it is that we all come together and fight really hard against this and resist it, everything in your life is going to become upside down and inside out. Here is the interview I had with Bruce DeTorres about digital ID. Listen to some of the things that happen. It leads off with a commercial video that's circulating right now in the UK, because the UK is a lot closer to this than we are. Take a listen.
Can I see your digital ID to check your daily sugar limit?
I don't have a digital ID.
I'll have to call the police.
Smith, you stand charged of exceeding your daily sugar limit and failing to present your digital ID when requested. This court finds you guilty. 50 years imprisonment.
No, wait. It was just a glass of Coke. I'm sorry. Please. It was just one glass.
Sorry, we don't accept paper tickets. Brick card only, I'm afraid.
It's all I've got. I paid for it.
Rules are rules, love.
Please, it's just to the clinic.
You'll need to step off the bus.
Come on, this
Easy
way.
does
No,
it.
please, I need to get
On
there,
your step.
please.
Wait. It just said declined.
Yeah, it says you've gone over your weekly meat allowance.
My allowance? I only fancied a steak for dinner. I've not bought that much this week.
I'm afraid the system's strict. It won't let me put it through.
You're joking.
Wait, stop, police! You turn left, into the alley.
Won't get far without a brick card, mate. Travel restriction breach detected. Annual flight quota exceeded.
Wait, stay where you are. Hands behind your back.
Let go of me, please. I haven't done anything.
Stop resisting.
You're hurting me.
So, Bruce, in that video I just played there, it shows a concern over in the UK about how the digital ID would basically prevent you from even getting yourself a Diet Coke if too much diet was going to hurt you. And if you were going for your 4th Diet Coke of the week, they would slap your wrist and stop you from that. And it reminded me of a story. I want to give you a quick story and get your input on it. About three years ago, I was going to a boat show here in Florida. It was down in West Palm. And I went, and I'm usually a guy who carries cash. And so when I went to go get my tickets, they wouldn't accept cash. They said credit card only.
So my wife ripped out her credit card, and we paid for the ticket. We went around, and I love going to these boat shows, not only just for the boats, Bruce, but I love going to get, you get a hot dog and a beer or whatever, and you just enjoy the whole day. It's really an event for me more than anything else. And I couldn't buy a hot dog. I couldn't buy a beer. It was a complete cashless event. I had to use my credit card. And I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I mean, as a guy who's got high cholesterol and goes to his doctor for different high, heart things or whatever, maybe just to stay healthy. I said, I would literally, if this was a digital ID service 10 years from now, they would reject my ability to buy a hot dog and a beer because they would say that it was going against my doctor's orders of not eating that sort of thing. My freedoms would be stripped. I said it in jest. And I feel as almost if it was like a prophecy, because that's the direction to which it seems like we're headed. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. And it is one of the most important topics you or anyone could really be talking about. And God bless you for bringing it up on your show.
And so from your perspective, I mean, what do people not understand about what a digital ID would carry?
It's an incremental step toward total, really, enslavement. And to your point, it is the eradication of our freedoms. And they're boiling the frog, so folks don't really notice it. However, it's really getting rather blatant these days. The digital ID component, we have it here in the States with various real IDs by various states. We don't have a federal thing yet, but all indications are it's in the works, especially if one taps into the prognostications of the World Economic Forum over the last 5, 10, 15 years. You would be very, very convinced that the digital ID, where you have to prove who you are to interact by almost anything, this is where it could go on the internet, even using the internet. Okay, coupled with digital currency, not just digital currency. Worst case scenario is digital programmable currency. And it would be bye-bye freedom, bye-bye anything that we traditionally were in the United States, that we were intended to be at the founding. It, like I say, might be the most important issue to discuss.
You could take anything in your life. Let's just use cars, for example, right? So we know that there are the environmentalists who have been pushing heavily to make everything into a battery-driven car. I'm not one of those people, all right? I drive a BMW, and I like to get gasoline in my car. I just like the idea of being able to do what I've been doing for the 56 years that I've been on planet Earth. There, in my mind, could be, if you had a switch of administrations and we were starting to go in a real sort of radical environmental sort of way, to where if I went to go use my car and I was going somewhere that was to have to include tolls, that if I were to have been driving my car, my gasoline-driven car, for too many hours for that week, thus creating what some would consider an environmental issue because my emissions are creating a ozone issue, that I would not be able to get past the toll because my digital ID would say, Dennis has been driving this week already for 40 hours. This is hour 41. Sorry, you cannot continue past this point. I mean, is that a realistic thing or is that sci-fi on my end?
No, that is a most plausible and likely outcome if things keep developing the way that they are. And it's hand in hand with the programmable money, because if they want to keep us in 15-minute cities, they simply can program our digital currency to work within the 3, 5, whatever mile radius of our home.
Can you describe what it is that they're talking about when they say the 15-minute city?
15-minute city, the concept of it is, and this is all in the name of saving the environment or fighting climate change and making things sustainable and equitable and fair and convenient. It's always sold to us as, oh, look how convenient it is, or look how it protects you from a dangerous problem. Everything you could want will be contained within 15 minutes of where you live in these extra design, these newly designed, these transformed cities and neighborhoods and big towns and small towns. And it's hand in glove with the appliances you described, your car, knowing where you're going, all the smart technology, all the smart devices that are really instruments of not only surveillance, but also data harvesting, so that the advancing technology will have an electronic profile or twin or avatar of you, me, and everybody to anticipate what we're doing, to control, limit exactly along the lines. You've driven too much. You're late on your gas bill. You've eaten too many steaks. It's it's the worst science fiction nightmare predicted by 1984 George Orwell or Brave New World Aldous Huxley. And the 30 years of people mocking Alex Jones, I have to give that man credit for whatever extremes of sensationalism or irrationality he might have ever reached. That man has been talking about this stuff since the 1990s. So has the likes of England's David Icke. And all this and more is in the book that I wrote, which people can learn all about at brucethetourist.com.
I was in a conversation with somebody about this digital ID, and we really were specific to travel. And they said, look, if you actually went for a flight from Florida to Georgia, let's say, and you left your air conditioning on, let's say at 68, and you got to the airport and you gave your digital ID, and they saw that you left your AC with nobody home at 68, they'd say, you can't get on the plane. You got to go home and you got to turn your AC down. And I said, well, at that point, wouldn't you just be able to do it remotely? I mean, and they said, yeah, you would. But think about that you would be restricted to get on an airplane and make the next movement of your day because somebody can see what it is that you left your air conditioning on, and they could come back and say, you are now creating an environmental hazard. You're causing a greater expense. You're not at your home. It must be set to 75. And it's just like, and it's real. I mean, Bruce, I don't know about you, but I think that is a real thing that's coming our direction.
That's a perfectly plausible scenario, and I can hear devil's advocate in my head. All the educated people proud of their education. Well, that's just what it takes, because climate change is such a problem that we have to control everybody, Dennis, to that extent, because we're saving the planet, and I have to assert the body of thousands of scientists and researchers who have persuaded me and many, 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 many people that the climate change scare may not quite be what it's made out to be. I'm convinced it's a scam of epic proportions to justify the rules and regs and the controls and the slavery that we are talking about here.
And that I agree with you 100% on the whole climate thing. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I always find it to be very interesting when you got somebody like John Kerry complaining about climate change, and then he gets on a private jet to fly around the world to warn people about climate change. But you go back to the digital ID, and I think one of the interesting things that could be discussed at length to stop it from happening here in the United States is you look what just happened this week with the Amazon server farm and basically shutting down, and it shuts down half the internet. I mean, I don't think people realize how powerful Amazon is in terms of their server farms, the AWS system. And if you read between the lines, they're not saying it's a hack from the Chinese, but it's hard to believe that it's not. We know that the Chinese are trying to hack into the Pentagon every single day. They're trying to hack into private companies to steal their IP. And so why wouldn't they be hacking into Amazon to create absolute havoc? With that said, the massive concern here is that bad actors around the world would have access to every single last part of Bruce's life, to Dennis's life. They would know more about us than they do already by planting cookies on every website we go into and trailing our every digital movement. I mean, it is a huge concern that our information would be out there for any level of hacker to be able to grab. And I don't know whether or not you've looked into this or not, but do you have any idea with a digital currency if there is anything that is currently being developed in other nations that have this sort of thing to protect its citizens from having their information just put all over the web and hacked by people who have nothing other than bad intent?
Yes, I have the impression that such currencies come equipped with that. It's one of the bragging points of the developers and the governments that are backing it. But we have to take every government's announcement with a huge grain of salt, even our own.
What do you think the impact is on local merchants who would now have to be following? I'm guessing an egregious amount of rules and sets in order to allow people into their restaurants or to buy their Cokes, or to do whatever it is, or pump your gas. I mean, what's the impact on small business, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the backbone of this country?
They certainly are. The impact is one more pebble on the load of rocks being put on their backs, making it that much harder to function. Our federal government does next to nothing for small businesses. So to the extent that they have more hoops and hurdles and rules and regs and technology that a small business must comply with, is yet one more burden on their backs to crush and eradicate them. It's not going to be easy to crush and eradicate our small businesses because 99.9% of all businesses in America are small businesses. We are a small business nation. The federal contracts that are supposed to go to small businesses, Dennis, that go to big businesses, depriving small businesses and our middle class of an economic boom. The contracts they're supposed to get from the federal government would create millions of new jobs. The big businesses that get those contracts do not create new jobs. So to the extent that the digital ID is another burden of responsibility, it slows down small businesses. I want to make a quick point. My 63 years on this planet allow me to remember how there would be an uproar at the door where you were not allowed to pay cash to get into the boat show. That's a constitutional issue right there, because the money says for all debts, private and public, this is legal tender. And we used to be smart enough, but that opens up the whole conversation of how dumbed down we've been since the 1960s by design, by the curriculum in public schools to make us idiots, distractible, children for life, immature, petty, and frightenable and leadable, because fear is the way they lead us.
I did a movie, it's on Amazon, called The United States of Tents. And one of the things that we looked at was, why are so many people now living in tents versus living in a home? And we talked about how difficult it is for home ownership these days, and how it's almost impossible to have 20% to put down on a house that's $500,000 if you're only a 25-year-old. I mean, I had my first house when I was 25 years old. I only needed a $20,000 deposit. Now all of a sudden $100,000. What 25-year-old do you know that has that kind of money? It's very few. And so when we went back, we said, why is it that people are hurting so much? And one of the reasons we saw is that entrepreneurship in the country has been on the decline each decade since 1970. And the reason being is because we have made it as a country so freaking difficult for somebody to start a small business. That's why it's really good to have advocates sort of like yourself. And so when you look at AI, when you look at big businesses, Amazon being a prime example, how many businesses has Amazon put out of business because A, of convenience, and B, because of pricing. You just can't do it. So, I mean, the choice is, hey, if you want to still sell your wares, you can, but you got to do it on Amazon.com, and we're going to take our fee. And slowly but surely, especially with a digital ID, that is going to wind up putting a harder, it's going to put a hardship on the small business that's just trying to get by and make a living for themselves. And it's going to be, and like you said, the government contracts, they're all going to the big business. And I think one of the reasons being is, Bruce, part of, they want to be able to control us, like you said.
Yeah, and Dennis, you know, in all frankness, it's 1,000 times worse than anything we've talked about so far, because the destruction, the assault on small businesses, which is the assault on entrepreneurship, which is the assault on independence, is part of not only the enslavement agenda that I've been describing, but that's also part of, unfortunately, the sickening of us, not only to exploit and extract wealth by managing our illnesses, there's also a body of evidence that indicates a depopulation agenda. So when you think of false flags, like, you know, they're lying about protecting small businesses, they're really hurting them. To do what? To justify things like more authoritarianism, more police powers, and digital ID, and the sickening and depopulation agenda. I submit as evidence the fact that the conclusion, which is mine and many, that the COVID-19 project was a scam around the populated countries that took high vaccine uptake. There is a tsunami of injuries, disabilities, and deaths. Worse, there is measurable decrease in birth rates, fertility, and sterility in men and women for those who've taken the COVID shots. Well, there's a tsunami, mountains of evidence that I could discuss or share or whatever, that, you know, that back up the extremes that I just shared with you.
So there you go. I mean, that's the interview there I had with Bruce about the digital IDs, and I think if you listened to what we talked about there, you can see, at least in part, the difficulty that we will have escaping Big Brother if indeed every part of our life has to go into a digital box. And I mean, we didn't even talk about hacking. The amount of hacking that will take place is just unbelievably bad. I don't know. We're running a little long here, but I'm going to do two more things. I told you we talk about Candace Owens for a second. But Ryan, can you get a good shot of this screen here that's next to me? It's there. I don't know. Can people see it good enough? I mean, because I'm looking at it on Facebook and it doesn't seem like. Go the other angle. Let's see what the other angle looks like, just for kicks. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. So on the screen next to me, and this is not favorable for people just listening on the audio side of this, but there is a gentleman, I can't even say his first name, is Jaspreet Singh, I guess. He is an illegal alien from India. This video is showing, it's a dash cam video, and in California, this guy was speeding while driving a tractor trailer, and he was drunk. And he never hit the brakes. And as you can see here in the video, he hit the back of a car, which then went into another car, which then went into a back of a truck. And just both cars just basically are nothing other than just sheets of metal after that. And it turns out to be that we just learned today that this illegal came across the border in 2022, and the Biden administration put him into the general public. So this is one of the reasons why you'll always see this program and why I'm always fighting for the end of both illegal and legal immigration. There are people who are now dead that didn't have to be, because the Democrats allow lawlessness to take shape. And it is it's a sin that this guy was not only in the country, but then given a commercial driver's license. And somebody had to pay their dear life. I mean, imagine that for a moment. Just imagine just sitting in your car on a highway or a parkway or a city street, and you're there, and you know you did your part. You stopped, you slowed down, you did the whole thing, and then before you know it, your life is over in a flash because some illegal alien was allowed to come here to the United States and get a driver's license that they shouldn't have had. And it's pitiful. The fact that we don't have all 330 million people in this country all saying the same thing, let's rid of every illegal alien, just tells you how sick our country has actually become. Now, speaking about sick people, I don't like doing this sort of thing, but I got no choice. I told you the other day, and I'm going to repeat it before we show you a video here of Candace Owens. I'm writing this book, and, originally it was going to be called The DML Diet. And as I'm writing it and I'm doing more about it, whatever, I'm just saying, this thing is going in a direction where it's so much bigger. And I originally, for those of you who don't know, let me go back. I have forever, for basically since I'm the age of 25 years old, when I had to get a colonoscopy, an emergency colonoscopy, after I had gotten kicked in the stomach, they found that I had precancerous polyps. And ever since that time, it's been 30 years, my stomach, notwithstanding the last few years, has been an absolute train wreck. I've had more tests done on my body than it would fill a phone book. I'm not kidding. And in fact, I went to one doctor one time. The doctor came in literally with the printout of all my tests. It was this thick. And finally, a few years back, between my CBD and 100% changing my diet by eliminating certain foods and drinks, and through meditation and through walking, no pills, no surgeries, none of those fashionable fad diets, nothing. And it solved my problems. And so as I'm telling the story, you can't explain what happened to you without explaining what you did. And so I've been writing, and it's been going through, and slowly but surely, it's like I'm writing the book of my life. And I tell the stories about how, I'll give you an example. At one point, when it was being pushed upon me that I should think about running for office, the stress and the eating on the run and the negative things that people are saying, and you let these things get into your head, I started getting an ulcer. So you got to connect the dots going backward, right? So I spoke to the guy who I had started co-writing this with, and I said, look, this thing's going in a much different direction. He doesn't like the direction it's going in. We went back and forth on different things, and we just agreed, you take what you want to take, and I'm going to take what I want to take. So we're revamping this book because I think it's a needful thing to revamp it, and I'm renaming it. And I got to tell you, Ashley and I work around the clock on this thing. We're renaming it Meals, Money, and Morons. And it is absolutely sensational. Sensational. I have dove back into work, writing a book, coming in here, doing the podcast, doing the short videos every day. My Facebook page is constantly lit up with different news and things of that nature. I just went to dinner last night for my daughter's birthday, and the guy at the restaurant has been following me for years. We're actually friends at this point. And he says, man, I'm seeing you all over social media. And I told him, and I tell you, it's only just begun. All right? We just started for the first time in my entire life. We started this week. You'll start seeing maybe advertisements. We are advertising everything I'm doing. Now, why is that? Why is that? Why tell you this long prelude? The reason being is because I was going to retire. My wife got sick. She needed my full time. I said, I've had enough of this politics stuff. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't have it in me like these other people to try to be, famous and on top of the charts. I don't really give a rat's ass about that. I just want to be with my kids, my wife, my close friends, And, in terms of Team DML, I'll create a Team DML where once a week I pop in and we'll have some fun. And as I spent more time away, it became a lot easier to live with my decision, selfishly so. Then Charlie Kirk got murdered. I watched that because we're in this business as we are, and I got these screens up here. I saw it within seconds of it happening, and I couldn't believe my eyes. And suddenly, a new wave of importance came over me and said, if I live to, let's say, 93 years old, that's always the number I ask for. If I live to 93 years old, I'm going to look back and say, man, I was in my prime, in my 50s. I fixed my stomach issues. I got myself back into healthy. And what did I do? I played golf. This young man, 2 kids, wife, probably going to be a candidate for some sort of office, if not the biggest office at some point. Charlie Kirk, I'm talking about. Charlie Kirk is sitting there, and in fact, I just think I called him Charlie Clark 2 minutes ago. I have a friend, Charlie Clark, so sorry. But Charlie Kirk lost everything, and now he's a martyr. You ask Charlie Kirk whether he wants to be a martyr or wants to be alive. I think he's going to choose alive. And so I said, who am I if I don't get up and fight for my country now? If I don't fight for my country now, when will I? And so I put my kids in a room and I said to them, I'm coming back. And if I'm coming back, we got to do this stronger, bigger, better than we've ever done it before. I'm going to put money towards it. In fact, I've borrowed against my assets to do it. I said, we're going to put a lot of money into this. And we're going to make this show one of the biggest shows there are. It may take a year, it may take 2 years. I said, we are going to be on every social media platform because there's no way I'm allowing that young man to give his life and me not do my part in trying to continue what he was saying, which for the most part has just been a continuation of what I've been saying for 20 years. And towards the very end, Charlie Kirk was warning heavily against the things that I have been warning about going back to 2008 when I first entered this. He was very concerned about the takeover of the United States from the Muslim world. He was very concerned about our open borders and mass immigration. He was very concerned about the destruction of various different communities based on demographic. And of course, he was preaching the word of God. And, I have always signed off on this show since the day I started it with a very long goodbye. And it's always the goodbye is God bless you, God bless your family, God bless, and other people say, all right, see you tomorrow. That's the way I don't. I feel as if I have to insert God into every show because I wouldn't have a show if it weren't for God. I wouldn't have a family. I wouldn't have you, my faithful followers and listeners. And for those of you who are new to me, I do get the comments that say, man, am I glad I found you? And yeah, I love the fact that you say the prayer at the end of the show. And I say a prayer before the beginning of the show, before you see me come on. I always pray. I pray that, God gives me a good day with the show. And I mean, God's great. I get to work with my family every single day. I'm looking across right now at my handsome son. So I cannot allow Charlie Kirk to be used for purposes of monetization. I could easily get up here right now and start selling freedom t-shirts like I see other people do and put money in their pocket. And it's one thing you want to sell the freedom shirts or something else like that, and you're going to donate 100% of the money back to Turning Point USA or back to veterans causes or whatever it may be. That's one thing. But if you're lining your pocket on this man's death, his assassination, shame on you. If you're lining your pockets and you're trying to promote yourself by means of coming up with conspiracy theories and radical crap and posting things online that are ultimately hurting this man's children long term, because at some point they're going to become adults and they're going to read and see all this crap. If you're doing things that are soiling this man and you're trying to masquerade it as you're trying to get to the bottom of a story while you're sitting on effing vacation, while you're rolling in millions of dollars, promising people who are vulnerable online that you're going to come up with all these receipts. And I can only sit back so long before I turn around and say, okay, it's time to strike back. Since the day she came onto the scene, I have always known, and it took Charlie Kirk a little time to figure it out, I have always known that Candace Owens was an absolute fraud, a total fraud. People used to say, I mean, it was crazy. People, she should be vice president. I said, my God, do you need to see a doctor? A fraud. The only thing that she is really capable of is fraudulently making people think that she knows something that you and everybody else doesn't. She's going to take down the state of Israel. She's going to take down, I mean, she's taking down everybody. And she's got all these things, but don't worry, she's going to reveal it in her next show right between the commercials. Right after she says, buy my book, buy my t-shirt. Now look, I started off this show with a dmlcbd.com/BOGO. We're all, the way that this business works is that you have to sell advertisements or you have to be in the business where you're monetizing things yourself. I don't sell other people's ads. I've never done it unless I use the product. You know, I have one thing, DMLCBD, or a membership for Team DML. You want to join it? Great. If you don't, and if I don't make any money from a show, which happens a lot of times, this time's on here, I pitch DMLCBD and I don't get any new customers. That's fine. It's not why I'm doing it. It helps pay the bills. She is doing it for her own egotistical purposes. And she, as long as she keeps on doing this BS of coming out and making this big, huge conspiracy theory, the deeper she digs the hole, the further I'm going to try to pour cement in it. Her latest video, this woman can't even go on vacation and just put things away. She's so camera hungry. She's so attention hungry. I don't even know, does she know who her father is? Because she comes off as being somebody who's got daddy issues. She is now saying she has lost all faith in President Trump and alluding to the fact that all the people in Charlie's lives, all the people, all of them, wife included, friends included, all of them turned their back on Charlie. All of them caused this to happen. I mean, you listen to this video, it sounds like she's saying that Trump had Charlie Kirk murdered. And I've had it. I've had it with this broad. Done. She's a two-bit circus act. And if you follow her and if you agree with her and you're buying into this stuff, I give you three pieces of advice. Number one, you should unfollow me because we do not align. You may like what I say about this topic or that topic, but literally, we do not align. If you were in my house, I'd throw you out. Two, you should really, really, really take a long, deep look in the mirror and try to get past the everything is a conspiracy. And number three, you should really get off the internet for a while because you've lost your way. And I don't mean this in a degrading way. I just mean it in a way that sometimes we could all get caught up in the digital crack because that's what this is. Digital, everything is crack candy. So I'm going to stand my ground here and tell you, we're going to play this video. This is the latest video right here, Ryan. This is the latest video from Candace Owens.
Just really needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or it doesn't serve us and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, If they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking boulevard. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. They're like holiday and a boulevard. And it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not going to be a nice side of town. Anyways, I will be back on the 27th, you guys. Thank you guys for all the support throughout these couple of weeks, these last really kind of 6 weeks since Charlie died. And we will see you guys then.
Yeah. So, there's the argument that says, why even highlight her? Because you're giving attention to her. And that's exactly what it is she wants, right? The more plays she gets, the more attention she gets, the more she trends. It feeds her ego. It lines her pockets. And this is one of those cases where I say to you, no, this is where you have to break the mold. The more that we sit here and just expose this woman for being the fraud that I have always believed she is, the crackpot that she is, I think deep down, the leftist she is. You could only tell a lie for so long, and then the truth comes to the surface. And now I think you're seeing the surface mount of this woman, because you could only lie for so long. You could only take so many false turns until you wind up turning into a corner where there's no escape. And that's where this woman has landed. She's landed in a corner. She's looking at the bullseye on her head in terms of, truth. And she's looking at truth and say, oh, I can't do that. Let me turn around and try a different angle. And now she's making the U-turn, and she's seeing there's nowhere else to go. This woman is a train wreck. And like I said, anytime you have the opportunity to tell people that she's a train wreck, I hope you take that opportunity, because the best thing in the world is that she is just pushed into the envelope of irrelevancy from commentating. And hopefully it happens sooner than later. But it is disgusting that this is the kind of stuff that this woman is putting out on a daily basis. I wouldn't even say she needs psychiatric help. This has nothing to do with psychiatrics. This has everything to do with just being a freaking a circus clown. That's really what it comes down to. So that's it for me. Until the next time, which will be on Monday. One thing that the boys, having a conversation, I wanted to start going 3 days a week. And we said, you know what? We got the holidays coming up. We've got so many different projects that we have to get launched in order to be able to really accomplish what we're talking about. So, and on top of with my book, I want to get it out hopefully before Christmas. I don't know if I can or not. But regardless, it doesn't even matter. I'm putting the book down for a little bit to walk away from it for a while. But we have so many things to do, including a new app. So we're going to stick with 2 days a week for at least the next couple of weeks. And then we'll let you know if something changes. But it's always Monday and Thursday for right now. So whether you're watching us on Rumble, Team DML, or Facebook, we appreciate you in a big way. Until the next time, have a great, great day and have a great weekend. May God bless you, our troops, President Trump, your entire family, Charlie Kirk's entire family. And may God do whatever he's got to do if he really does get involved in elections to make sure that Ma'am Dammy doesn't have a chance. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.